What's good, YouTube? This video is going to be about getting catfished. Somebody wrote me a question. They asked me, they said, I got catfished. Can you do a video about the mentality of a man who would do this? Sure. Getting catfished is frustrating. It's one of those things that eventually happens to everybody, and it's probably happened to you and you didn't know it yet because you didn't meet that person. Catfish usually are very slow to meet a person, but of those who are bold enough to show up after they've completely lied about who they were, it can be a pretty traumatic experience. And for those of you who are in the comment section or who are watching this video who don't know what getting catfished is, getting catfished is when you meet somebody online who misrepresents themselves. They either give you a false picture or a false backstory or completely lie about everything from their name to their identity to who they are to where they live and all of those things. So this girl was dating and she got catfished and she wants to know about the mentality of a man who would do such a thing. It's important to acknowledge and realize that most of the time, the main motivation for a person catfishing is deeply rooted in security. Okay, it's extremely tempting to get upset and be nasty with these people and, treat them horribly because you feel like you've been bamboozled, you've been lied to, you've been run amok on. But you have to realize that most of the time, the most fragile minds and the most fragile psyches and the most fragile egos are those types of people who would catfish or lie about their identity or don't feel comfortable enough being who they are. They're damaged enough, they're battling enough demons and enough darkness already a lot of times before they've met you and lied about who they were. Most of the time, catfishing is about getting acceptance from a person. They don't feel like they're going to be accepted for who they are right now or who they've been. So they create an identity or they steal some pictures and they give you some kind of false sense of who they are because they don't feel like under any truthful guides you'd accept them for who they are. A lot of times they're people who have dealt with a lot of rejection, who dealt with a lot of pain, a lot of ostracism, right? And ostracism changes the way a person thinks and the way a person moves, right? It can be very debilitating and very traumatic. And it could also, again, change the behavioral patterns of a person. A lot of resentment builds in those who've been ostracized, right? We always hear about people who go do crazy crap or, mass, things that, blank pew pew, those types of things. Those people are ultimately, overwhelmingly people who have been ostracized in some way or another. They feel at least though they have been. So ostracism puts people in a position a lot of times where they're catfish or just deeply rooted insecurities, deeply held traumas and experiences that they haven't worked through. Also loneliness, extreme loneliness and desperation for acceptance and solitude. That is usually what is going to motivate someone to lie about who they are and misrepresent themselves to a person unknowing. So like I said, it's easy to be upset. It's easy to be nasty with these people, but we have to realize that people are going through some shit we don't understand sometimes. And as much as it's a disservice to be catfished, it's also a cry for help. And sometimes it's not that serious. You just got a disrespectful, dishonest asshole. That happens as well. Sometimes it's not that deep, but for the most part, very few men and women lie about who they are and are also in a good, healthy mental place, right? I've not seen that yet. I've not seen healthy emotional complex mind and psyche. I've not seen healthy people do this. It's only people who've really battled a lot and are going through a lot. So I guess the answer to your question is insecurity, deeply held insecurity and trauma. A lot of times I've been catfished twice, actually. I always said I would tell these stories. So one time I was catfished. I think I was about 17 and maybe 18. I was a senior in high school and I was talking to this young lady and, I met her on Black Planet. She was a very beautiful, gorgeous woman. I remember her name. I'm not going to say her name, but she was actually from the city and she was known by a few people. Well, I was talking to my friend who used to go to that school that she used to go to or that she went to currently, at least while I was talking to her online, getting excited, having phone calls and conversations. My friend actually knew who she was. he hadn't seen her in a couple of years, but he confirmed for me, no, this is who she is, because I showed him a picture like, yo, is this girl for real? Is this her? Is she catfishing? Like, nah, that's who she is, man. I had a crush on her since I was in the 9th grade, blah, blah, blah. So on top of my friend saying he had a crush on this girl and he's always liked her, man, I was really excited. I was really lit. It was like, oh my God, I hit the jackpot. This is good. This is awesome. And because he hadn't seen her in a couple of years, he was just running with it. He was happy for me. He was even a little bit jealous because he really wanted, a turn, and he never really got to date the girl. So I'm talking to this girl. We seem to be making progress. We're just talking on the phone, getting to know each other, having great conversations. I'm sensing some darkness, but I didn't know what I was picking up on. So I didn't like make a thing out of it. I just, said maybe I'm tripping, right? So I was sensing some uneasiness, but I didn't make any decisions off of it. So I said, well, shit, we should meet. Let's kick it. Let's meet up. And, she was like, cool. And when we finally met up, she had flaked on me a couple of times, which should have been a red flag, but, I was hopeful, young, and, hopeless romantic at the time. And the third time she didn't stand me up. She actually showed up to my house. And when I got in her car, which was a very beautiful car, she had a nice car that had a lot of things added to it. And, so I was really excited that was the car she described and everything. But when I got in the car, she was actually 100 pounds heavier than she was when my friend had last saw her and when she had taken those photos. And so I found myself, obviously I was frustrated. I was irritated because she had completely misrepresented herself. She showed me old pictures, 2 or 3 years before that, where she was, in cheerleading shape. And for an 18-year-old, extremely shallow and horny young man, that was a violation. That was something that I needed to make an adjustment to, and I needed to know, before that, that wasn't something a young man is going to be very happy with. That you look like, a top model cheerleader in one picture you show me, or in a couple of pictures you show me, and then you pull up to my driveway and you're about 100 pounds over, the weight that you were in any picture that I saw. And she knew she was hiding that. And that was frustrating to me, but immediately I understood what was going on. And while I was furious, I was irritated because, again, I'm just a young man, and, that's just was something I was not interested in at the time. And to a degree, men like what they like. We're visual creatures. We want to really be attracted to, every part of our woman's sexuality. And that was just something I wasn't into at the time. It frustrated me quite a bit, but I didn't say it. I tried not to show it. I sat and chilled and talked to her for a while, and I'm pretty readable. If I'm upset or if I'm irritated or if I'm vexed, you can tell. And she could tell I was disappointed, and I think she was preparing herself, which is why she stood me up a couple of times before she finally met me. But I remember that being, really hard for her to see my disappointment, and really hard for me to process it while not inflicting more trauma or disappointment on her than she had already planned for. We hung out, we talked a little bit, and, ultimately, I went back in the house because she was only coming over to say hi or something. It wasn't like we were going to go on a date or anything. But obviously we didn't talk after that. I was really irritated. She had misrepresented herself. And then she had kind of been upset with me that I was disappointed that she wasn't the girl from the pictures, or at least anymore. She was so much different than the images she showed me that it was just too much to get over. It was very frustrating. I had even dated heavyset girls, but I had not been tricked into it before. And so I felt betrayed, and we didn't talk after that very much. So that was always something that bothered me and always stuck out. I've always tried to pride myself on not inflicting any harm or damage on any woman I've handled, but I'm not sure if there was any way for me to be disappointed and be honest about that and also not inflict any damage. And so it was frustrating. And I know she was hurt by it, and I was disappointed, not only in her for lying, but then myself for not being able to move around it, so that was just something I learned about myself. I can't always be the good guy. And then again on Black Planet, this other girl I met had just shown me pictures of her cousin or a girl who she knew, a friend. And I talked to her for about 10 days on the phone, and we were communicating and things, and I was really enjoying myself on the phone with her. So I decided I was going to take her out to a movie and, maybe even get something to eat. And so the day comes, we're finally supposed to meet up. I wash my car, I shine my rims up. I had this Mustang with these 22-inch rims on it. I was so proud of it. It was a cheap ass car with some big rims. It was pretty from like about 10 feet away. You couldn't get too much closer than that though, because it was about a 10-foot car, as my wife's dad said. It looked good for about 10 feet away. When you get up on it, it was a bunch of imperfections and dumb shit going on, but it was beautiful and had nice, pretty rims on it. So I go to the car wash, I shine my car up. I'm working my ass off to make sure I'm coming clean to this date. And I get to this girl's house and her whole family seems to be there. I don't know if I've showed up at a family gathering or what, but I'm in the middle of like 7 or 8 adults that I was like, damn, I was not expecting to meet the whole lineage of her old damn bloodline. I just was showing up to take some girl on a date. I didn't realize it was gonna be this serious. And I should have known I was being catfished because it took the girl like 30 or 40 minutes to come out of the back of the house, right? So I get there on time. I'm always prompt. I show up and I got to talk to her family for like 30 or 40 minutes. It was the weirdest introduction. It was like this big reveal. And everybody seemed way too invested in this date. And I was just like, this is weird as fuck. This girl is bad. I'm sure there's guys over here all the time trying to take this girl out. I'm not sure what the hell's going on. Well, when the girl finally came out, she was definitely not the girl from the pictures. And so not only am I catfished, but I'm catfished in the middle of about 7 or 8 uncles and aunts and cousins and people who want this girl to have a good time. I'm realizing I'm being catfished into a girl's first date, a catfish's first date, who had lied about who she was, and now I have to pretend not to be furious and pissed at the same time and let this girl in my car and take her to a movie so that she's not further humiliated by her family and in front of her family from me running out the house pissed. That was so crazy. I was so mad. I had spent so much time shining my car up, trying to make sure that I came correct. And I showed up to this date with this fine chick, and it was definitely not her. It was a completely different woman. And a lot was wrong with how she presented herself. And it wasn't even, she wasn't like overweight or anything like that. I know the last story was that, but this girl didn't have any weight issues and it wasn't really, a thing about her fitness. It was just everything else about the style, the way she presented, but the way she dressed was like an 11-year-old. And, I'm 18 at the time, or maybe I'm 20. Maybe I was 20. I think I had those rims. I was like 20. This was years after. So I'm like 20. And, I'm having a grown man experience, and this girl comes out here and she's dressed like a 12-year-old. She's of age, but she's dressed like a 12-year-old. And it was just different. It was odd, but I didn't want to humiliate her. And I feel like, fuck it. So I actually took her to the movies anyway, just so she would be able to get out of that house and not be humiliated in front of her family. Even though I was furious, I played it off. And I took her to the movies. We went to the dollar movies instead of the expensive movies across the parking lot because I was just irritated as hell. But I'm not going to talk all about what was wrong with the young lady and how she was different from the pictures or from the young lady she sent me photos of. But I can tell you that she was definitely not of the caliber of a woman at all, or even of the style or anything. Like, she just was a different person. And a lot was different about her that I wish I would have known, or at least been given heads up on. She was extremely frustrated with me. And again, she showed frustration with me, just like the first girl who catfished me. She showed frustration that I was disappointed. So it became my fault that I wasn't reacting to being catfished and lied to properly, apparently. And I remember thinking, damn, this is what happens to good guys. Like, fuck all of this. You know what I'm saying? And it was just really frustrating. So I've been catfished too, and I understand your frustration. I understand what you're going through, being disappointed, being lied to, feeling betrayed. And then usually catfish are often, again, frustrated and pissed off and mad and have the nerve and the gall to be upset at you for not accepting the real version of them when they've just come out the clear blue sky with this new identity. But again, it's usually trauma and deep-seated insecurity and a fear of ostracism that causes them to do this. And it's usually a signal of poor mental health. And so you don't want to contribute to that with an extreme reaction. You want to survive the moment, survive the encounter, allow them to save face as much as possible if you have it in you to do so, and just move away from them slowly but surely. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. I don't think that they're undeserving of love, but you can't start a relationship under false pretenses, and that's half of the frustration, and that's most of the shock and the awe. And the appalling nature of it is just that there's the misrepresentation of who they were. So anyway, yeah, I've been catfished. It's an issue of insecurity, not necessarily malicious intent. So anyway, I hope that helps. Follow me at catfish24 on Instagram. If you want to call, go to girltalkwithguys.com and book you one. I'll get with y'all later.